What's going on, guys? It's James from James's Jeff House, and today in this video we're going to be talking about cohabbing crested geckos. First things first, I want to mention I do cohab a trio of adult crested geckos, and right there you can see their lay box. If you house males and females, most likely they will lay eggs, and that can be a touchy subject for some people, but you have to know what to do with the eggs and how to incubate them, which with crested geckos it really isn't that hard. Room temperature, keep my room a little bit warm, because just letting the eggs go bad is really a big waste. But of course, every once in a while I take my male out of the enclosure for maybe once every 2 months. I take him out for like 3 or 4 weeks, let the females build back up. And a lot of people will disagree with how long I put the male in. Some people only put the male in for a little bit, but my females are still chunky and there's no problem with it whatsoever. Right here in these smaller tubs, these are all single babies that I'm growing up. These ones are, there you go, these ones are all babies. You can see there's 3 in that one, there's 2 in that one, and there's 2 in that one. Actually, one of the ones that has 2 has a 3rd one just hatched today. Let me show you that real quick. But I think one reason a lot of people have issues with cohabbing geckos is maybe sometime they saw a problem, maybe one time with someone they don't know, or not someone they don't know, but like maybe a friend a long time ago had an issue, and that could have easily been from miscare. But how do you think breeders breed geckos and produce cute little babies like that one if they're not cohabbing, right? Just doesn't make sense. Let me get him out for you guys. Now this chumpy little guy is Beetlejuice, and Beetlejuice is having his first shed right now. That's crazy. Tiny little guy. So one problem I could see cohabbing is if you don't have enough leaves in the cage. Like, take a look at mine. See all that green? I got a bunch of leaves in there. I still would probably like to add more. Any leaves I get go to my babies. But that's the part about being a breeder, is you have to be willing to spend a bunch of money. You can't just put your geckos together and make a bunch of money. You have to spend what's necessary for your geckos to thrive and to have enough, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to spend enough money, or whatever it takes, for your geckos to thrive and want to breed, to be a breeder. And I see this mistake a lot of people just have one gecko in a tank and they go, oh, I'm gonna just buy a male and put it in there, it'll be fine. And I'm a big advocate for not needing huge tanks, but people will put a male in with the female in a small tank, maybe not many hides or ways to get away, and they'll see a lot of aggression, and if they don't have a lay box properly set up, the eggs can go bad, and that's just a big problem. I especially hate when people get on Facebook and they go, oh, my geckos are laying eggs, what do I do now? Do your research. If you plan on breeding, before you even get the second animal, figure out how. Figure out what it's going to cost you. Figure out how much time it takes. That'll let you know if it's something you really want to do. There are certain animals people don't breed in captivity because it's just not worth it financially. And maybe you want to do savanna monitors. It's a lot. You need big enclosures, you need heat domes, lots of varied food, and you're gonna want to charge people $100 for the animal. No one's gonna pay that. You can get them for $25 at a show, wild caught. It just, if you want to breed, you have to be really smart. And if you're going to cohab, you're going to end up breeding, especially with crested geckos. There's really no way around it unless you're just housing females. And I would say be really careful housing just females, because I'm sure that if there's not enough hides, your geckos will fight. They'll want their own space. And it's not necessarily they need a whole new cage, but they want to be able to get away from each other. They don't want to sit there and stare at each other and start to wonder whose territory of the cage they're in. But that's it for my crested geckos. I will flip you all around and we'll look at some of my leopard geckos and fat-tailed geckos real quick for the remainder of the video. Alright, so here's my terrestrial gecko rack, and you can see by how many labels are in each tub. I actually I cohab a bunch of these as well. So we'll start right up at the top, and let me explain my tags to you. In parentheses first is the name, the morph, L for leopard, the gecko number starting with the year. If I'm not sure on the year, I usually just put the year I think I got it, and then the hatch date, the lay date and the hatch date. I'll probably put a spot for parents in future ones, which will be just 2 numbers, male first, female second. I did with my cresteds just because people care a lot about the lineage, and that's why I've been giving all my cresteds names lately. I'm less likely to do it with my leopards just because no one cares as much, but at the same time, it'd be nice for myself to be able to keep track of who laid what baby, so I can minimize inbreeding, because it's really not something I want in my collection. So this is Malloy. This is my first leopard gecko. I had one when I was 12. It did not last long. I got this one when I was 17 at a PetSmart, and I got Big Boy from an old coworker. He was not really treating his geckos well, so I just bought his whole collection for a couple $100, and we just called it good. Now, I don't have a hatchling rack with smaller tubs, so I have this divider. And when I was first setting it up, they did get into each other's cages at one point. And so Malloy has a bit of scarring. He's missing a piece of an eyelid. I think he's missing a couple toes. But he's a good boy. He's a good first gecko. Water dish is filthy. I gotta clean that out. I cleaned, I think, about half these tubs yesterday, and I gotta do the other half tonight. And that's Big Boy. He's got huge calcium deposits and a regen tail. And he's a great eater. He's actually eclipsed het radar, I believe. He kind of looks eclipsed to me, not 100% though. We'll see what happens if I have some babies from him next year. We'll see what happens and what pops out. This is Lefty and Righty. They have their own leopard gecko video. They have their own video. It's called, I believe, I Rescued These Geckos or something like that. These tags are from Geckos Etc., where I bought these 2 geckos. You see Lefty, Tug Snow, Leopard, and I bought them so I don't have a lay date, but I do have the 2 hatch dates. They got a clean tub yesterday. You can see one of them poking it out. That is Lefty. No, that's Righty. Righty has his right hand. No, Lefty's missing his left hand. That's right. Okay. Down here we have some fat tails. I produced 2 of these. There we have Steak Sauce, my original breeder. She's really weak, and I actually didn't continue breeding her because she only laid a couple good eggs and the rest started being infertile. So I just keep her in here, and she will live the rest of her life with me, being fed, happy, and healthy. That's Caution, 2018 holdback, slight underbite, regen tail. And then Pearl, one of this year's only couple geckos. She's got a slight tail kink and a slight underbite. I believe the dad had a pretty bad underbite. I don't believe, I guess I kind of knew. But So far I sold him and I bought a new dad, so when I breed this year, there should be a lot less of that. I definitely learned my lesson there. Down here we have Trixie, Sneaky, and Tristina. So we'll start with Tristina, my Bella albino right here, given to me by my buddy Tristan. It's a real good girl. She'll be breeding with Big Boy because he's Eclipse Het Bell. Here we have Trixie, a blizzard given to me by a coworker. None of my leopards are really fat, which is weird because I work with leopards all day. So I've been meaning to go get some hornworms and kind of kickstart on a feeding frenzy, especially this girl right here. I just named her the other day. What did I name her? I named her Sneaky. Let me try to get her out with one hand. You can already see this is about the weight she was when I bought her. See, she's real skinny. There's no genetic parent information or anything. She was lost in the system. I think she got out of her enclosure, and that's just how I bought her. But she eats and survives, but not enough to thrive. And so tomorrow on Tuesday, I have a day off. I'm going to go to my local reptile store and buy some hornworms specifically for these guys. Next up, we have my breeding group of fat tails, Patty, Pixel, and Johnson. There's Johnson, my patternless whiteout male. Those go for upwards of $700-800. There is Pixel. You can tell by the dots, that's why we named her that. The dots also are a sign that she's probably het patternless. I'm not 100% sure yet. And that's Patty. She was my first African fat tail and a really good breeder. She's produced, I believe all the babies are hers, because I don't think Caution was, or not Caution, I don't think Steak Sauce was fertile, because I did have a lot of slugs, usually 50%, and I think it was from her. And then we have Diamond, this year's second baby, a little striped normie. Now I think one of my two older geckos, you know what, let me flip this around. Alright, now I think one of the two between Hattie and A1, which was my male last year, I think one of them was het patternless, and that's why I keep seeing all these het patternless, like, het markers. They're not het markers because they're not proven out and I don't know for sure, but it's signs that pointing me in the direction of het, and that's why I've kept these back, especially with my het. It's not a het, it's a patternless whiteout male that I can breed with those babies without inbreeding and produce het patternless, patternless whiteout, and het patternless whiteout babies. And that would be awesome if I had 2 or 3 that were het patternless and throwing all those combos every time. Now, of course, I don't know that, but at the end of the day, I'll still produce 100% het patternless and 50% whiteouts. So either way, I'm golden, and if they're not het patternless, they're just really pretty, and I think that's enough to sell people on these geckos. Now, that's about the end. My name's James from James's Reptiles. You can hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, james'sreptiles@gmail.com, and James Walter on Facebook. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a good day.